Here we have a presentation about fiscal resources. In our field, the manager must plan, allocate, control, report, and evaluate fiscal resources. So managing economic resources of a recreation, parks, and leisure service organization is a very critical aspect of their job, of the agency, and of the services and facilities provided. There are some similarities between profit and non-for-profit organizations in our field. They're both concerned with where resources are used. They look at seeking to maximize operating efficiency, distributions of goods and services, ensuring that they are responsible with their financial obligations. They can stay financially viable and stay afloat. Looking at it, they usually have a limited pool of resources and resource providers, and some may charge fees for services. Here specifically, let's look at the financial differences between profit and non-for-profit organizations. In for-profit organizations or commercial enterprises, we generate income through producing and selling goods and services and from investments. We're going to seek to maximize revenues and minimize cost. And finally, we're going to be accountable to shareholders or people that will benefit from us increasing our revenue and minimizing cost. Now let's look at the nonprofit organization. Here we have internal funding and external sources of support. To maintain our legal and tax status, we must demonstrate where we get our external funds. This includes things like fundraising and development, as they're very important to the overall viability of the nonprofit organization. To look at this in a different way, we can look at the philosophical distinction with the nonprofit organization. So in nonprofits, we're looking at a private voluntary organization where our primary aim is to provide social welfare services and achieve multiple goals most of the time. So we're not looking at any profit-driven motives here. The manager's goal in the nonprofit is to ensure the operations or delivery of social benefits. So again, we're moving away from the manager's goal being profit. The secondary goal is to maintain liquidity and solvency and formulate a budget. So basically, make sure we can meet our bills and make sure that we can continue operating. For the profit and nonprofit agencies, we can get revenue in different ways. We can do fees and charges for services, which is typical in a profit organization. We can look at getting tax allocations or grants. We can look at bond programs, donations, and investments. Now let's look at the budget. It's a statement that allows organizations to plan and control their resources for a specific period of time. So oftentimes the budget is stated in dollars, but sometimes it can look at work hours, units of production, or other descriptive or measurable units for resources. The budget provides some very specific information. It can look at resources of an organization, what we have, how we acquire resources and how resources are expended, what services we're providing. And it's important to remember it's not a static document to say. It's not going to just be rigid. There are things that can and will change, and I like to think of it as a living, dynamic document. Overall, the budget represents the manager's ability to estimate or predict how resources of an organization are going to be acquired or expended. Let's look at some of the advantages of using a budget. Some of these will probably make sense, right? The budget allows a manager to organize the resources in a systematic fashion. It requires a manager to plan for anticipated work and expenses, and it allows the manager to develop work schedules and work around goals for the organization. It can also serve as a reference for the manager and subordinates to help clarify or support decisions. Do we have the budget for this? Did we plan for this? It allows the manager to communicate with subordinates and coordinate activities in monetary terms. This is what we have budgeted. This is what we have to work with. It can promote standardization within financial operations, so everybody's on the same page. It provides legislative bodies with necessary information for evaluation of programs and services. Your budget really is a reflection of what you're going to do. In the public sector, the budget provides taxpayers with explanations on how resources are produced, acquired, and expended. Again, the same thing with legislative bodies. It shows what you're doing with your resources. And finally, the budget serves as a point of reference, a guideline or measuring device by which you can see if you're going to be successful or if you're doing the right thing.